After seeing your video on the Randolph house, I decided to reach out about my encounter my mother had while working there in the 90s. According to her, that place is definitely haunted. My mother was the only medical technician at the hospital. She worked there for many years and saw a lot of strange stuff. But one story always stood out to me. The top floor of the facility was used as storage. My mother would often get sent up there to get something. She'd usually take the elevator to go up there since it was easier to carry things back down that way. One night she went up to get something, and when she got back on the elevator, there was a woman on it. At the time, it didn't occur to her that she would have to have seen this woman get on the elevator since it left the top floor. The woman would have had to have been in the room she had just stepped off into. They went back down to the first floor. The lady never said anything. My mother told her to have a good night and got off the elevator. She started to walk around the corner, and that's when it hit her. There was no way that lady could have gotten onto the elevator. My mother then turned back around and walked back to the elevator. The elevator was empty. She then looked around and didn't see the lady. There was nowhere she could have walked off to without going by my mother, since it's a straight hall. My mother then asked some of the other staff that were on the floor working at the desk if they had saw a woman get off the elevator. That's when they told her that people have been seeing a woman on the elevator for many years. People don't know if she's someone who worked there, a patient, or what. My mother never thought the spirit was evil or anything like that.
It was the early 2000s, and a friend I was working with was heading up around Blacksburg, Virginia one night to visit someone at Mountain Lake. When she came back the next day, she came right over to ask me about gargoyle-like creatures in the area near the exit to Mountain Lake. Now, there are legends of gargoyles in Appalachia, but none this far that I know of. Anyways, it was late. I think she said around 10 p.m. She was near the Mountain Lake exit, heading southwest. Suddenly, on the right shoulder of the road, she saw something large. It filled the area, bigger than a dog, but smaller than a cow. She couldn't figure out what it was as she passed, and then she saw what looked like a winged gargoyle-like creature squatted down on the shoulder. She said she looked back to see what it was in the taillights, and then there was nothing there in the road.
It was late summer night, about 11:30 p.m. in August 1974. I was about 17 years old at the time. I was driving to my home in Nace, Virginia, which is located between Troutville and Buchanan. I was coming home from my girlfriend's house in Salem on Route 11, passing through Troutville. Coming into Troutville, I had noticed some relatively low lights and thought it might be a plane making an approach to the Woodrum Field in Roanoke. All of a sudden, I realized that the lights didn't seem to be moving, and I began to slow down until I came to a dead stop right in the middle of town, in front of the old Troutville Elementary School. That's when I noticed a dark triangular craft about 150 feet right above me, with a bright light on each corner. My anxiety was rising fast, and I felt the hair on my arms and neck standing up. I rolled down my window on my '63 Oldsmobile and leaned very far out and looked straight up. I was immediately impressed at the size of this craft, and it was at least as long and wide as a football field. I also noticed there was no engine, no motor sounds, but only a deep humming from the craft. It was so intense that I could actually feel the humming in my body. Now, I was completely at a loss as to what I was seeing or what I should do. I had a weapon in the car, and a quick thought passed through my mind that I should get it, but thankfully that went away quick as it come. This was when the fear crept in, and I realized how actually close to this crowd I was, and there had been no cars coming from either direction in the short time that all of this had transpired. Erratic thoughts started racing through my mind. Would he try to hurt me? Or even worse, try to take me? I quickly ducked back into my car and rolled the window up, stepped on the gas. Actually, I floored it and exited Troutville heading north on Route 11 towards my home in Nace. Now, my 63 Oldsmobile was what I called a tank due to its size and being made up almost completely steel. Route 11 is a 4-lane highway there, 2 lanes in, each direction, and I had pegged the speedometer at 120 miles an hour, and I was cutting corners. I could see that the craft was still very low and right behind me following as I sped along. I was very frightened. When I came to the turnoff on my right to go to Nace on a back road, I noticed another car coming in the opposite direction. We passed one another as I slowed down and turned off Route 11, and the other car was proceeding toward Troutville. It was now that I noticed the craft had stopped following me and was following the other car back toward Troutville. While I was glad it was no longer following me, my fear had yet subsided. I continued to speed the rest of the way home. Upon entering the front door of my house, I saw that my mom and dad were still up and immediately noticed the state I was in. I told them what had happened, and I was sure they was going to think I was nuts, but Dad said he had seen several things in the sky out where we lived, and he was really not surprised at my story. 48 years have passed since that night, and I still remember it like it happened last night. I went on to spend 20 years in the Army and only shared this story with about 10 people in that amount of time. I never talked about it a lot because I didn't want to get the looks and hear the comments that I feared would come my way. I have made the judgment as to whether or not this craft was alien or just something from another world or something from this world. I personally believe it was something from another world. The government of our country has finally admitted there are UFOs, but they really have not commented any further. I believe they know very much more about these things, but for some reason, they don't want to share them with the American people.
So I can't remember exactly when this was during the COVID lockdown. I think it was sometime in the beginning. There was an emergency for work and I had to drive in. We'd been working from home for maybe a few weeks at the time, and I hadn't really been out in a while other than, to go to the grocery store and stuff. It was very early and I was driving in and I didn't see a single car on the road. Most likely because it was early and during the lockdown. I was stopped at a stoplight when out of the corner of my eye, I saw this woman walking down the sidewalk in a paper-thin looking dress, dressed all in white and just walking down the street into the park. I remember thinking, well, that's odd. Here it is, cold, rainy, and still dark outside, and this woman's walking around with no jacket on, nothing. It just didn't make a lot of sense. So I looked back up at the light to see if I could go yet, but it was still red. And then I looked back to see what that lady was up to, just because, thought it was odd. And I didn't see her. She was gone. There was no trace of her. And that whole area was completely flat. You could see for probably about a mile stretch. And I just kind of shrugged at the time and drove off. Well, I got about half a mile down the road and I was like, well, dang, I should have got my phone out and recorded her. I mean, who knows what that was? And that was pretty strange. And then thinking about it even more, maybe that was a woman in white. Now, years later, I started Spooky Appalachia, and I was talking to a police officer friend who told me or asked me if I had heard of all the deaths that happened associated with that bridge over the park. And it made me wonder, maybe, just maybe, this was a spirit of a woman who had a death related to that bridge.
So this happened around the time I started volunteering at St. Albans. It was Halloween night, and I was working at the haunted house attraction. I was stationed on the second floor, halfway in a ghost costume. When people would come in, I was to jump out and scream at them and try to scare them. That night, one of my daughters told me she was going to be coming with her new boyfriend, who I'd never met. She said he had been, talking a lot of smack and saying that he's one of them people that stuff just don't scare him, and asked if I could get him good. They made it to me about 30 minutes till closing. I know it's them because I hear my daughter giggling, so I tell myself to get ready. Well, I'm hiding in the room looking out through a little hole waiting. I see two young men, my daughter and another girl, start to go by. I stuck my head out of the hole in the wall and went, "Blah!" to scare them, then chased them down the hall. I decided to focus on going after the two young men, knowing one of them was my daughter's boyfriend, so I didn't pay much attention to the two girls. I must have done a good job because they both screeched like little girls, and they run down the hall to where my partner directed them down the stairwell. As they were going down the stairwell, I walked up to my partner and pointed out who my daughter was, that it's her, not the quiet one, but the one that's laughing like a fool. I turned around and go back down the hall. My daughter then comes up to me and hugged me, then said, "You got him good, Mama." The girl was still behind her, so I waved at her and introduced myself. The girl, for some reason, just looked like she was bored to death. She looked like an average middle school girl wearing jeans and a hoodie, kind of pouty looking. A few days later, I talked to my daughter. I asked if they liked the event and if they had a good time. She explained that they did. So then I asked about the girl that she had with her. I asked if she had any fun at all because she looked so bored. My daughter asked, "Wait, what girl?" I said, "I guess the other guy's girlfriend." My daughter said, "Mom, they weren't anybody else with us. It was just the three of us. My daughter and the two boys. I know I saw this girl. I know she was there. But to this day, I still double check when I look at groups and I wonder."
So what did you guys think of these truly creepy stories from the state of Virginia? Man, some of these we featured a really long time ago, and they all hold a special place in my heart. And then there's my personal story that's in there. But love to hear what y'all think about each and every one of these stories. The gargoyle one, that one was interesting. And of course mine was interesting, because it happened to me. Love to see what y'all think about that one. The Troutville UFO chase. I got sent that story maybe in 2021, I think. It just blew me away when I first heard that one. I hope y'all enjoyed it. The ghost in the elevator, the ghost lady. I did a video at outside Randolph House in Pulaski, Virginia, after hearing some stories it was haunted, and sure enough, a couple days later, a lady sent me her story, and that was it. Man, something else. Something else. Let's see. There was Miss Julie's personal story. I think she sent me that in 2020, and here we are retelling it. We also had her on to tell the story once or twice, too. Really, really incredible story. Anyways, I hope y'all enjoyed these stories from the state of Virginia. And if we get enough stories, I'm hoping we can do a collection like this for each Appalachian state. I I would be tickled to death to do that. I'm thinking maybe Tennessee next, since I've got a bunch of stories from Tennessee. But yeah, I just need to get some more stories from different places to be able to do one from each state. I've got a good number from Tennessee and Alabama right now, so I could do those in the not too distant future. But yeah, just keep sending in stories, and hopefully I can do more states. You can send those stories in to spookyappalachia@gmail.com. And then don't forget to like, comment, and if you've made it this far in the video, be sure and subscribe. It won't cost you a dime to do that. And don't forget, folks, stay spooky.